I worked at the lowest level of a brothel and offended the courtesan, nearly getting beaten to death. A kind-hearted servant risked his life to save me. To pay for my facial treatment, he insisted on castrating himself to become a eunuch for money. Unwilling to let him do so, I pretended to disappear. When we met again, he had truly become the feared living Yama, the chief of the Eastern Depot. Later, he was beheaded in public on a snowy day for forming cliques for personal gain. Before the execution, he gave only me a gentle smile like the warmth of spring. "Elevener, don't be afraid, close your eyes." When I opened my eyes again, time had reversed. In this life, I must find him first, make him wash away the ink of his past, and live a long life. Hello, everyone. Welcome to my channel. Subscribe us to read wonderful stories every day. Now the story begins. You damned thing. You hurt me. Hearing this, I immediately pulled out the golden needle and knelt on the ground. My already frail body trembled like a withered, broken leaf, all for these repeated, baseless torments. Your Highness, please forgive me. This servant will be more careful next time, and there will be a next time. Huangfu firmly pinched my chin. His gaze wandered over my chest before he pulled me into his embrace and began to ravage me. You little ugly freak, your face looks like a demon crawled out of hell, but your figure is quite nice. Too bad the Queen Mother won't let me touch you. I wonder what background you, this lowly servant, have. How about I have a taste today? His arms wrapped around me from under my armpits, pulling my body tightly against his chest. He lowered his head, opened his mouth, and took one of my earlobes between his lips, nibbling and biting it back and forth. It felt as if the flesh of my earlobe was about to be bitten off. The sharp pain made me gasp and let out a soft ah. Huangfu, hearing this sound, grew even more restless with desire, wanting to force himself upon me right then and there. In the end, it was the hideous red birthmark on my face that ruined the mood. Just then, a panicked guard rushed in to report that Wei Wuye, the current head of the Eastern Depot, had arrived. The chief, clad in a four-clawed Chilean python robe, descended the carved pearwood jade steps with a presence as imposing as a mountain. In his right hand, he held a sword, while his left hand leisurely wiped away the still warm blood. Wei Wuye, you have no regard for the law. How dare you kill someone so casually in my residence? Huangfu was shocked. Your Highness, this humble official is merely here to claim a person. Who? Huangfu was furious, but in the end, he dared not make too much of a fuss due to the chief inspector's overwhelming power, and could only ask, Huang Elevener. I was shocked, because that is my name. Spring pear blossoms outshine the snow, pure and gleaming like a dream. Under the tree, Wei Wuye held me. His voice choked with emotion. Elevener, I've finally found you. I hugged him back, 1,000 thoughts swirling like dancing pear blossoms. When I was young, I was considered unlucky because of 3 red birthmarks on my face. My parents sold me to a brothel, and I managed to scrape by teaching myself acupuncture. One day, the courtesan was in a bad mood and, taking advantage of the pain during the acupuncture session, ordered me to be severely beaten. When I was beaten nearly to death, the pain in my body suddenly vanished. Ah, the Bodhisattva has shown mercy, it doesn't hurt anymore, I murmured, clutching my head as I lay on the ground, but the scream that should have come from me spilled from another boy's mouth. A brothel servant took the brunt of the rain-like fists for me. Much later, the courtesan finally vented her anger and left with her entourage. I struggled to open my eyes. The brothel servant's mouth was bleeding, his face swollen like a pig's head. Yet he still smiled at me. I'm no bodhisattva, just call me Brother Wei. Back then, I grinned foolishly, gazing into his clear eyes as I thanked him. From then on, I called him brother for who knows how many years. Everyone in the brothel knew I was Brother Wei's little shadow, teasing that I would marry him when I grew up. How could I, with this ghost-like face, ever hope to win my brother's affection? In the year before my coming-of-age ceremony, I was almost always in low spirits every day. I heard the palace is currently recruiting eunuchs. They give 50 taels of silver for each person, and the monthly salary is also quite substantial. With money, we can treat your face. I tried my best to dissuade him, but it was in vain. One day, I saw with my own eyes that he had bought a knife. Its cold gleam shimmering faintly under the moonlight. The pain made him hunch his shoulders and bend his back, like a wounded crane with a broken neck, just as he was about to act. I pushed him away with all my strength. Even if I were to disappear completely, I would never let Brother Wei harm himself. On a rainy night, I secretly fled and began to wander. I never knew that, in order to find me faster, he would still choose this shortcut. Tens of thousands of portraits almost covered the entire study, costing countless gold and silver, until I was finally found in the palace. We embraced and wept these past few months. It seems we've been trying to make up for all the lost time over the years, sipping tea, listening to the rain, awaiting the moon, savoring wine, tending to flowers, and seeking tranquility. We never tire of these pleasures, except during his haunting nightmares, when he would unconsciously sob and murmur, "Elevena, I'm no longer a real man. Will you look down on me?" He hired the best physicians for me, and indeed, the red patches on my face gradually faded away. Life, like the vibrant spring that follows the melting of ice and snow, was slowly getting better. But on a snowy winter solstice day, everything was torn apart. Liu Tan, the second-in-command of the Eastern Depot, told me that Wei Wuye had been imprisoned in the imperial prison for forming cliques for personal gain and would be publicly executed in a few days. In the prison, he comforted me, who had secretly sneaked into the imperial prison. I have committed countless evil deeds, and I have long anticipated such an end. The land deed in the southern part of the city and my personal wealth are kept by Liu Tan. He is trustworthy. Please don't cry. All right. Before the execution, he gave me a gentle smile, warm as a spring breeze. "Elevena, don't be afraid. Close your eyes." The blood on the ground soaked the pure white snow, like blooming body flowers. He was dead. Returning to the governor's mansion, I heard the unrestrained laughter of Liu Tan, the second-in-command of the Eastern Depot, and Huang Feud. They had long been working together from the inside and outside. In the end, the person Brother Wei trusted the most had replaced him and become the governor, a eunuch who came from a brothel and was ridden by thousands. What storm could he possibly stir? Huang Feud looked at Wei Chi's head and laughed arrogantly. "All the wealth Wei Wuye has amassed over the years now belongs to you. However, acting first and reporting to the emperor afterward is a grave offense, and you won't have an easy time explaining it to the empress either." Liu Tan expressed his concern. "Even if the Buddha stands in my way, I'll kill the Buddha. They even spread rumors that I'm not the emperor's biological son. All to support my second brother in becoming the crown prince. Don't even think about it." He kicked the head. "Throw it into the mass grave. Let the dogs have it." I followed them all the way and finally, after the group had left, picked up and pieced together his complete body. "Brother Wei, for the rest of my life, I wish you eternal peace." The night was cold with rain. There are 3 fierce birthmarks on my face, and one of them is almost gone. The moment it disappears, I have been reborn. This is the governor's mansion. The very first night I was brought back by Brother Wei. He is personally preparing a delicious meal for me. We have endless things to talk about, but this time, tears welled up in the corners of my eyes, and I lied to him, saying they were tears of joy. "There's still time," I comforted myself. Wei Wuye trusted Liu Qin implicitly. The tasks assigned to him were all highly confidential black operations. The day before Liu Qin was due to return from his mission, I feigned a headache, wept sorrowfully, and recounted how the second-in-command in my nightmare had actually betrayed him long ago. Wei Wuye smiled and patted my head. "It's all right. He's one of us. Do you not like him?" Liu Qin and he had both been castrated and were sent to the palace as the lowest-ranking eunuchs. Wei Wuye was handsome and deeply favored by the imperial concubines, receiving countless rewards in silver. Liu Qin, however, was considered somewhat ugly and deemed unlucky. Often bullied, but Wei Wuye always protected him. Later, they became sworn brothers, supporting each other all the way to the top. I was speechless. This was the nature of their bond, yet it was true that Liu Qin supported him, and it was equally true that Liu Qin caused his death. I did not like him. It wasn't until I produced a letter, proving the handwriting was indeed Liu Qin's and the contents revealed his secret correspondence with Huangfu, that Wei Qi's expression finally changed with belated realization. He secretly sent someone to follow Liu Tan and indeed discovered that he had long been colluding with Huangfu in secret. Wei Wuye planned to frame him with a crime at the governor's office and have him executed directly. Before his death, Liu Tan was still trying to use their past friendship as a plea. Wei Wuye's face was cold and stern as he retorted softly, "Yes, how wretched we were back then. Fighting our way up from the bottom. Why did you have to personally destroy all of that?" He casually waved his hand, and his subordinate guards thrust the cold dagger into Liu Qin's Chihai acupoint. The pain gradually turned Liu Qin's cunning excuses into curses, until he finally vented all his pent-up resentment. "Just a lowly servant. How dare you stand above everyone else? My father was once the Vice Minister of Revenue. If it weren't for being framed, why would I have become a eunuch? I am far more capable than you, well versed in the 4 books and 5 classics. Why should I be suppressed by you?" Wei Wuye curled his lips and asked me with great interest if I wanted to see someone torn apart by 5 horses. I was shocked by Wei Wuye's cruelty and ruthlessness, but I also understood the life and death struggles in the world of fame and officialdom. My heart ached for him, not knowing what he had been through all these years. After the punishment ended, he looked at my somewhat dazed self and asked, "Afraid of me?" I shook my head. "How did you know Liu Tan betrayed me?" "I recognized your handwriting, back in the brothel. It was you who taught me how to write." I slightly opened my mouth, so he had known all along that the letter was forged by me. "You don't blame me for acting on my own." He stood up and gently smoothed my hair, which had been slightly tousled by the falling pear blossoms. "How could I, even if he hadn't betrayed me? If you want someone dead, I will make it happen. I only wish for your happiness. Whatever you say, I will listen." I didn't know whether to feel joy over his devotion or fear over his twisted bloodlust. Gently holding back his large hand that lingered in my hair, "I hope you are a good person, free and unburdened, without worries or cares." He showed the warm smile reserved only for me. "With you by my side, I am free from worries and cares." Because of Liu Tan's exposure, all dangers seemed to vanish. Wei Wuye was tasked with assisting the second prince, Huangfu, to become the crown prince, so Huangfu often visited the governor's residence. For some reason, after a few interactions, he actually took a liking to me, all because I applied acupuncture when he happened to have a headache, which quickly made him feel better. In the room bathed in the evening's radiant glow, he furrowed his handsome brows and said, "I want to ask you to accept my feelings. Of course, I should also respect your thoughts. However, a eunuch, he cannot have children. I hope you will think twice. Thank you for your understanding, Second Highness. Even without children, I still wish to stay by his side. After all, the bond between us is something that even the next life couldn't sever." My gaze was resolute. Huangfu was indeed different from Huangfu. He was a gentleman who did not resort to force or coercion, nor did he say anything more. He merely sighed. With a touch of regret, during the meal, Wei Wuye stared at the birthmark on my cheek. One of the 3 marks had already healed completely. The second was in the process of healing and about to disappear. "It seems the medicine you've been drinking is effective. 11er, I always knew you were a beauty in the making. Like a fairy, agree to the second prince's proposal." He is a gentleman, and once you enter the palace, you'll have no worries about food or clothing, living a life of wealth and honor. Your children will also be granted titles and ranks, becoming part of the royal family." Her hand trembled as she held the chopsticks. "So, he knew everything. Why would I enter the palace? I'm going to marry you. What? Do you look down on me?" I deliberately kept my tone light and even poured him a full cup of wine. He gently tapped my little nose. "I'm a eunuch. How could I possibly get married? Be good and listen. If you don't like the second prince, I'll find you other talented young men. I've already prepared your dowry." I brought the wine cup to his lips. "Does Brother Wei dislike me now? I won't marry anyone. I'll stay by your side, the kind that can't be driven away no matter what." "Heh, you little rascal." He seemed pleased, drinking heavily. "This string of body seeds is extremely precious. I'm returning it to you now. Keep it with you to ward off misfortune and ensure a long life." As he spoke, he took out a body pendant from his chest and asked me to take good care of it. That body seed was quite lively, and its meaning was a long life of 100 years. So I joyfully accepted it. In the end, we were almost all drunk to the point of unconsciousness. He held me close, his eyes brimming with tears. His voice hoarse like cracked mud. "Elevena, not only am I dirty, but I'm no longer a real man. You don't despise me, but I despise myself." With blurred eyes, I said, "What are you talking about, Wei Wuya?" "In my heart, you are the best person. My father, Liu Tan, was once my patron. He forced me." At that moment, I instantly sobered up, no longer drunk. "Elevena, could you make me some hangover soup?" I immediately turned my head away. "Oh my, I don't even need hangover soup, and you do. Your alcohol tolerance is really poor." "Well, wait right there." I still pretended to be nonchalant and quickly fled, hiding in the kitchen, sobbing. A bowl of sobering soup took a full half-hour to make. By the time I brought it over, Wei Wuye was already gone. "Ah, it's my fault for being too slow." Thinking he had already gone to bed, I went to the bedroom. No one was on the carved rosewood bed. Strange. I went out again, and under the distant body tree, he was hanging in mid-air. I was speechless. Unable to even catch my breath, I immediately hugged his lower body, wanting to save him. Unfortunately, I didn't have that much strength. He was so handsome, even in death. He stood as elegant as an orchid and jade tree. The body tree only bloomed 3 flowers, weeping blood like the bitterness in my heart. There were many people coming to pay their respects. Even the Empress Dowager had arrived, and she had invited the abbot of Yuanshan Temple to perform the rites for the superintendent. I stood under the body tree, gazing up at the flowers, my eyes stinging with bitterness. For who knows how long, Abbot Xingmiao had come to my side at some point without my noticing. Amitabha, the body tree symbolizes enlightenment. The 7-fold cause and effect of bodhicitta include recognizing all beings as one's mother, remembering their kindness, repaying their kindness, cultivating loving kindness, developing great compassion, generating the altruistic intention, and ultimately giving rise to bodhicitta. Perhaps your karma, benefactor, was destined long ago. Upon hearing this, my eyelashes fluttered. Did I do something wrong? So, is that what caused all of this? Once upon a time, there was a monk named Mu Yin, who had a deep affinity for Buddhism and was greatly favored by the senior monks of the temple. They took him as their beloved disciple and sent him down the mountain to gain experience. Upon his return, he was to inherit the abbot's purple and gold kasaya. However, he mistakenly consumed a hallucinogenic drug at an inn and ended up violating a woman. Mu Yin was unwilling to renounce his monastic life, and after the woman became pregnant, she was left with no one to care for her and died during childbirth. I don't understand why the abbot is telling this story, perhaps to console those burdened by sorrow, I asked emptily. And then, did that monk ever regret it? Master Xingmiao said mysteriously, "Heaven's secrets cannot be revealed. If fate allows, I will tell you next time we meet." I smiled faintly. Heaven's secrets cannot be revealed. Here, as I turned around, I met the searching gaze of the Empress not far away. Like the loneliness and deep blue of the sky after countless stars have been hidden by snow, a woman of such noble status probably wasn't looking at me anyway. Without another thought, I turned and left. Heaven's secrets can indeed be revealed. After the second red birthmark on my face disappeared, I was reborn. This time, I met the 8-year-old Wei Wuye. He was being brutally beaten by his gambling-addicted father, nearly to the point of death. You jinx, always wearing that sour face, and you only managed to get this little money. Might as well sell you to the brothel to make some cash. Exactly, you're always sickly, can't even work, and spend money on medicine every day. What's the use of keeping you around? The stepmother, holding her newborn, looked down at the child lying beaten on the ground with contempt. I quickly stepped forward and stopped the man's violent actions. What kind of father are you? The man's eyes were red with gambling losses. Damn it, who do you think you are, daring to meddle in my business? It's only right for a father to discipline his own child. He'll be beaten to death, I screamed hoarsely, using my body to shield Wei Wuye, frustrated and enraged. The man noticed the expensive fabric I was wearing, and his rat-like eyes lit up with a cunning idea. How about you just buy him, only 50 taels of silver, and you can do whatever you want with him. This boy of mine is exceptionally handsome. Where would I get 50 taels of silver? In the end, I had no choice but to give him the body pendant. A star and moon body the size of a copper coin is extremely rare. 3 beads from the same fruit are even more priceless. It's worth his life. The man thought I was lying to him, but after going to the pawn shop to inquire, he confirmed its value and immediately agreed to the deal. I led Wei Wuye away. He was already so emaciated that a gust of wind could knock him over, but he blinked his big, obsidian-like eyes. Sister, thank you for saving me. Where are we going now? I patted his head. The world is vast, and there's always a place for us. Let's go earn money and redeem Putty as soon as possible. I spent a long time with Wei Wuye, and he was truly so sensible it was heartbreaking. Moreover, his body was too weak, a condition he had carried since birth. I treated him with acupuncture every day, searching for rare herbs in the mountains and fields to cure his illness. If he were any older, it might have become a lifelong chronic disease, and he wouldn't have lived past 30. Wei Wuye's condition gradually began to improve, and he became more cheerful. He kept calling me sister, asking for my name and if he could follow me from now on. I chuckled, chewing on the sour grass roots he had dug up for me, and nodded. My name is Huang Elevener. Of course you can. I'll teach you how to write and compose poetry. I learned it on my own too when I was little. A master taught me. Looking at his gradually improving young face, I suddenly remembered his handsome face in youth, covered in despair, murmuring to me, even I despise myself. Wuye, even if I'm not by your side. You must never seek a living in filthy places, like brothels, pleasure quarters, or whorehouses. People will look down on you, and you absolutely must not sell parts of your body for money, like becoming a eunuch. Otherwise, you will absolutely regret it. I used 3 absolutely s. Wei Wuye nodded. I know Sister Elevener doesn't like such people. When I grow up, I will never sell myself for money. You're such a good boy. Wuye, wait a moment. We're going to the cliff on the mountain to pick a piece of dendrobium to nourish your body. Thank you. Sister, my life was given by you, and when I grow up, I will repay you well. He hugged my arm, acting spoiled, his face showing a happiness and joy he had never had before. Just like my name, Shiguang, which means the warm light of dawn, full of hope, we set off for the cliff. Along the way, I happened to save a noble lady from the palace. The noble lady wanted to give me gold and silver treasures, but I only noticed the body seeds hanging from her waist. These are the 3 I pawned for Wei Wuye. Unparalleled in agility and liveliness, a year after my daughter left, I transplanted a Bodhi tree from a temple in the distant mountains, after more than 10 years. It finally bloomed and bore fruit. These fruits closely resemble the ones from the tree I planted, so I bought them. You saved my life, and I should thank you. If you like them, I'll give them to you. After the noble guest left, I gave the body to Wei Wuye. Look, what is yours will always be yours. I give this to you, hoping it will help you overcome dangers and live a long, peaceful life. But, this is my sister's. Wei Wuye scratched the back of his head adorably. I sighed softly. The wheel of life turns, and he still hasn't grown up yet. When he grows up, he will surely live a peaceful life, free from worldly vanities. Dark clouds were gathering, an omen that didn't seem too good. While picking dendrobium, I accidentally stepped into empty air and fell off the cliff. From the cliff edge, Wei Wuye's desperate cry echoed, his outstretched hand no longer able to reach me. Reborn once again, the third birthmark on my face had completely vanished. Gazing at my reflection in the mansion's pond, for the first time I thought I might actually be somewhat good-looking. The golden needle in my hand makes it clear where I am, the residence of the eldest prince in the imperial palace. After applying the needle, he pretended to be in pain. You wretched thing, you hurt me. Hearing this, I knelt on the ground again. Please forgive me, Your Highness. I will be more careful next time. Huang Feud pinched my chin heavily and pulled me into his arms. You little ugly monster, your face looks like a demon crawled out of hell, but your figure is quite good. It's a pity my mother won't let me touch you. I wonder what kind of lowly maid you are. Why not have a taste today? Ha, the words are exactly the same. I am not afraid, yet I am scared. What I do not fear is that in this lifetime, I can save Wei Wuye, preventing him from straying from the right path, so that he may live a peaceful life without regrets. What I fear is that he is not the chief supervisor and cannot save me at this moment. However, the one who saved me this time is the current empress. Gazing at her, who bears some resemblance to me, I am filled with many questions. It turns out that the person I saved back then was actually the current empress. You have suffered, child. I don't know what stroke of luck I had, but I was treated kindly by the empress. However, despite her high position and the phoenix crown on her head, the woman looked haggard and worn. Between the lines, there was actually a slight sense of guilt. Not only was the empress's attitude unbelievable, but everything that happened afterward felt even more surreal, like a dream. I am the legitimate princess of the current dynasty, while the eldest prince, Huang Fude, is an orphan from the common people who was swapped due to the empress's selfish desires. The truth came to light because of the report by Chief Supervisor Wei Wuye, and in the end, the empress's voluntary confession finally led to my discovery right under everyone's noses. It took me a long time to come to terms with this new identity. The abbot of Yuanshan Temple, Xing Miao, performed a ceremony for me, meant to discard the dross and invite blessings and peace. Yet among the crowd of officials, I spotted someone I should not have seen, dressed in a Chilean python robe official uniform. Wearing a tasseled official hat, the Grand Governor of the Eastern Depot, Wei Wuye. Why did he still become a eunuch? I clearly warned him when he was 8 years old. After the ceremony concluded, the empress was deposed and confined to the cold palace. While I moved into the empress's residence, I saw the abbot of Yuanshan Temple, Master Xingmiao, once again, dressed in the princess's lavish attire. My heart was in turmoil. Would you like to hear the rest of the monk's story, benefactor? I was speechless. Too many things were beyond comprehension. Xingmiao continued speaking. In a certain dynasty, the empress gave birth to a child. To comply with the emperor's wishes, a monk lied, claiming the newborn was a male infant who would surely become the crown prince. The emperor and empress were overjoyed and had a golden statue built for the Buddha in the temple, granting amnesty to the entire realm. At the time of childbirth, however, a baby girl was born, the monk and the empress one fearing punishment from the emperor and the other worried that the second prince born to the imperial consort at the same time would threaten her own child's position as the crown prince, sought a son from among the common people and carried out a swap. As it turned out, the swapped eldest prince was a fool. In his pursuit of the crown prince's position, he disrupted the court's affairs. When his schemes came to light, he was stripped of his title, reduced to a commoner, and sentenced to bone-breaking punishment, leaving him a cripple. The empress longed day and night for her daughter but ultimately never found her. The girl, forced to rely on herself, struggled to survive alone in the world. She was later violated by the monk Mu Yin, who had mistakenly consumed hallucinogenic drugs, became pregnant, and died in childbirth while delivering a stillborn baby. Mu Yin, arrogant and unwilling to sever his ties to Buddhism, remained heartless and indifferent to the woman, causing an innocent person to die with resentment and bringing about bitter consequences. Much like a murderer, he chose to take his own life. I frowned. Who is the woman the master mentioned? Xing Miao smiled faintly. It's just a story. When you have time, take a look at the hidden compartment behind the incense burner in the shrine. Perhaps everything will become clear. I lowered my head and stood there until my entire body grew stiff before I finally came back to my senses. Someone gently brushed off the snow-white fallen petals from my shoulder. Long time no see, Sister Elevena. I snapped out of my daze to find Wei Wuya standing right beside me, close enough to touch. You. I had 1,000 words stuck in my throat. You must not belittle yourself. You cannot choose to end your own life. Don't leave me. No matter what you become, I will always love you. I know what you want to say. I will live well and become someone respected. So when the Oirat invade, I must go to battle. It's just that having just found you, yet having to part from you, my heart is filled with bitterness and sorrow. Tears welled up in his eyes and fell silently, like pear blossoms in the rain. So am I. But as long as he is still here, there is hope. No matter how reluctant we are, we must watch him grow stronger, bit by bit, with our own eyes. On the day he set off, I personally saw him off. He tucked the body beads deep into his embrace, smiling brightly. Wait for me, Elevena. I nodded, watching him from the city tower as he galloped away on his horse, valiant and majestic. During the time Wei Wuya was away, I often stayed by the Empress's side, who is also my mother. She paid the price for the mistakes she made back then. Her heart finally found peace, no longer bitter. I won't blame her for leaving. She found the answer, no longer in pain, fading away gradually in my arms. Before leaving, he said, I made a deal with the Buddha, trading the rest of my life for a new one. Elevena, I hope you can turn misfortune into blessing and live a long life in this lifetime. The Empress passed away, and soon after, I received the news that Wei Wuya had died in battle. The pain of despair made me feel as if my life was like a fallen leaf, drifting in endless cold, my soul already torn apart. Crying every day made my vision blurry. I recalled the words of Master Xingmiao. I went before the shrine at Yuanshan Temple. In the hidden compartment, I found a suicide note. Huang Fu Shi, your mother exchanged her lifespan for a chance at rebirth, to atone for the mistakes of the past. I, too, am the same. Back then, the esteemed abbot Xingmiao's beloved disciple, Mu Yin, became involved with the princess of the current dynasty who had been living among the common people, that is, me. After I became pregnant with a child, I met my demise. Mu Yin interred the infant's remains, and within the ashes, a red relic was left behind. He brought it back to the temple and chose to pass away in peace. He then made a solemn vow, swearing that through 3 cycles of reincarnation, he would protect the princess at all costs. But in those 3 lives, he would be denied the joys of human connection and meet a tragic end, all to seek redemption for his sins. The relic was brought back to the distant mountain temple and buried. Another spring passed, and for reasons unknown, a body tree sprouted from the spot. It was later transplanted by the empress into the palace grounds, where she could gaze upon it and remember the one she had lost. The emperor appreciated Wei Wuye's meritorious service in resisting the Oirat invasion and relocated the tree to Wei Wuye's governor's mansion. Years later, it bore 3 fruits, 3 rebirths, 3 atonements, all seeking perfection. Salty tears soaked the paper. So that's how it is. Wei Wuye endured humiliation in all 3 of his lives, unable to fulfill his manhood, while I, noble in 1 lifetime, exchanged it for the suffering of 3 lifetimes. Yet, I always managed to be reborn. Seizing a chance at life, the stinging pain on my face returned once more. In a moment of darkness, I groggily opened my eyes. A storm of clubs rained down upon me. I was still being beaten in the brothel. Ah, it hurts so much. The 3 lives of the body fruit have passed, and everything has returned to how it was before. Someone is holding me tightly, protecting me. I looked up and saw Wei Wuye descending like a god, but this time, he was no longer a lowly servant, but the high and mighty chief supervisor. Oh my God, how are you a eunuch again? I was on the verge of tears. After going through 3 lifetimes, he still chose to walk this path. 11er, I'm sorry, I'm late. He helped me to my feet, his expression stern as he declared, "This is the princess of the current dynasty. Anyone who dares to disrespect Her Highness will be dealt with according to the law." Everyone in the brothel trembled with fear, falling to their knees and begging for mercy. I nestled in his embrace, my heart filled with anxiety. In this life, there would be no chance for rebirth. I can't wait to tell him. The border is dangerous. You must be careful. I really don't want to hear about him dying in battle a second time. He patted my head and said, "Good girl. We have successfully repelled the Oirat enemy, and now the country is at peace. The crown prince has been demoted to a commoner, and the most urgent and grand matter for the emperor and empress, even the entire nation, is to find you, Your Highness." Only then did I realize that the 3 cycles of rebirth had not only quietly changed Wei Wuye's fate but also mine. "I want to marry you." I held him tightly, saying impatiently, in this lifetime, he did not refuse me again. On our wedding night, he kissed me, took off my clothes, and we fell onto the bed together. Panting, I asked suspiciously, "Aren't you a eunuch?" Wei Wuye caressed my delicate, flawless skin. "When I was 8, I met a fairy. She told me never to sell myself for silver, but she accidentally fell off a cliff, and this is the only way I can find her. However, I used a little trick when entering the palace, so I am still a real man." "Oh," I became intrigued, "then we can have children." Wei Wuye curled his lips into a bewitching smile. "My lady, don't be impatient. Your husband is here to make a child right now." That night, the Empress and Master Xingmiao stood beneath the body tree in the Admiral's residence. 11er never blamed me. She was the one who redeemed everyone. She was never at fault, yet she suffered such injustice. The Empress wiped her tears, lamenting the cycles of fate. Xingmiao said, "The Buddha teaches that one reaps what one sows, and one must cross the river of life by oneself. What is destined to come will come, and what is meant to leave will leave. Keep your heart bright. Accumulate good deeds, and you will have a future that remains forever bright." And so the first story ends. What do you all think? Feel free to share your thoughts in the comments, and if you enjoyed it, please give this video a like. Now, here's the second story. The emperor decreed that my elder sister must marry far away to Liangju. Wei Qinyang adores my sister and can't bear to part with her. He secretly switched the brides and replaced her with me. I sobbed, "Brother Qinyang, please don't." Yet his reply was airy and dismissive. "The Liangju region is bitterly cold. Your sister grew up in the capital since childhood. Sending her there would be the death of her. As a sister born of the same mother, it is only right to share your burdens. Besides, I understand men. They dislike dull personalities the most and favor gentle, understanding women. No man would ever take a liking to you. Just wait a while, and I'll send you back to the capital." He kept his word, and so, I was truly sent back to the capital, but because he acted first and reported later, the Wei family punished him by making him kneel in the ancestral hall and forced him to take me as his concubine. Everyone thought he would refuse, but to their surprise, I was the first to clutch my stomach and speak, "I don't want to marry him, and I will never be a concubine." He laughed in extreme anger, still maintaining his condescending demeanor. "Given your current situation, I'm already reluctantly agreeing to marry you. What more are you being so fussy about?" He paused mid-sentence, his gaze falling on my slightly swollen belly, his eyes suddenly turning bleak. His eyes were bloodshot as he demanded, "Did that bastard touch you?" Back then, when Wei Qinyang uttered those words, his tone was particularly fierce and icy. My fingers trembled instinctively, but I still met his gaze directly. "Changeng is my husband. Why can't I touch him? Besides, wasn't it you, Wei Qinyang, who secretly swapped me and sent me to Liangju back then? How dare you question me now?" When the emperor arranged the marriage, my sister fainted right after receiving the imperial decree. As soon as she woke up and saw Wei Qinyang coming to visit, she burst into tears, her face as delicate as a pear blossom in the rain. "Qinyang, please help me. I don't want to marry into Liangju." Wei Qinyang, who had long admired her elder sister, felt his heart ache with pity. Without a second thought for the boundaries between men and women, he immediately pulled her into his embrace. "Don't be afraid, Mingyu. Even if I have to give everything I have, I won't let you marry into Liangju." So he turned his gaze to me. "He must despise me, although my sister and I are twins. One is quiet and dull, while the other is bright and lively." When we were young, the Wei family held a banquet, and the three of us, feeling bored, started playing hide and seek. Wei Qinyang didn't want me disturbing his time alone with my sister, so he left me in the deserted garden. I was scared and wanted him to take me with him, but he grew impatient. "Just wait here for me, it's not far. Besides, we're at my house. What danger could there possibly be, Mingxue? Will you stop nagging already?" He was lying. The desolate garden was pitch black, overgrown with weeds, and venomous snakes often lurked there at night. You could even hear bird calls that sounded like a baby crying, which was especially eerie. Why was it nighttime? Because Wei Qinyang was having so much fun that he completely forgot about me. If someone hadn't found me poisoned by a snake bite, I would have had to report to the King of Hell ahead of schedule. He was so angry that he was frantic. Others said he had been looking for me for a long time. "How could you be so foolish? Why did you just stay there the whole time?" But he forgot that when I was young, just for breaking one of my sister's lanterns, she locked me in a cabinet for the whole night. Since then, I have been afraid of the dark, but I didn't want him to worry, so I still looked at him with a smile on my face. "Brother Qinyang, don't cry, Aishwar is fine." I even shook my bitten leg to comfort him. Actually, it hurts like hell, yet he was a beam of light that shone into my barren life. I will never forget our first meeting. He walked over to me, huddled in the corner, and handed me a rabbit-shaped lantern. "Happy birthday to you." So even if he despises me now, I only remember how he used to be, that warm and kind Wei Qinyang. He froze for a moment, then seeing my exaggerated pained expression the next second, he laughed in exasperation. "You're utterly foolish, Mingxue." I stared blankly, almost forgetting the pain, and asked foolishly, "Then does Brother Qinyang feel happy? Does he like Aishwar?" I suddenly limped closer, and for some reason, Wei Qinyang's face turned slightly red. The next moment, however, he spoke with disgust. "Who would like you? With your dull personality, who could possibly like you? If I were to like someone, it should be someone as bright and lively as your elder sister." This time he wasn't lying. "So sister can't go to Liangju, but I can, because sister would act coquettishly toward him, would burrow into his embrace, looking so pitiful that any man who saw her would feel heartache." Elder sister hugged Wei Qinyang back. I saw Wei Qinyang stiffen for a moment. This gesture spoke volumes. A moment later, he abruptly tightened his arms around elder sister. The possessiveness was palpable. But if my sister doesn't go, who could possibly take her place? The Marquis household only has 2 legitimate daughters. Wei Qinyang thought of me. He suddenly looked up, and the direction of his gaze was exactly where I was standing. I instinctively trembled. Could it be that my eavesdropping was discovered? Would Brother Qinyang be angry with me? I felt a bit uneasy for a moment. I ran back to my own courtyard. I rummaged through boxes and cabinets, trying to find something to give him. Just at that moment, he appeared. What are you hiding here for? The banquet is about to start. I was overjoyed, but then wondered why he was willing to give me a friendly look. He couldn't stand my gaze and turned his head away. He placed an exquisite box of pastries on the stone table. I looked at the pastry, truly overjoyed. Only later did I come to realize, why did he insist that I could only eat it on my sister's wedding day? It turned out he had drugged it. Taking advantage of the busy household, he secretly replaced the bride with me. As the effects of the medicine wore off, I saw him trying to leave and reached out to grab him, but my hands were tied. I sobbed, "Brother Qinyang, please don't." Yet he only said lightly, "Liangju is bitterly cold, and your sister grew up in the capital since childhood. Sending her there would be like sending her to her death. Besides, I understand men, they dislike dull personalities the most, and no man would ever take a liking to you. Just wait a while longer, and I'll let you return to the capital." He believed this was a plan that satisfied both sides. It would both prevent my sister from marrying far away in Liangju and protect my innocence. The governor of Liangju, even if he were to drink to his heart's content, would never take a liking to me, let alone when he's sober. After all, no one would fancy a woman as quiet and still as stagnant water. Yet the undeniable fact remained, we were alone together in that chamber. This marriage was personally bestowed by His Majesty, so no matter how displeased the governor of Liangju may be, he cannot afford to disregard the emperor's will. As for his promise that I could return to the capital in a few days' time, I hadn't figured it out yet when he pushed me onto the carriage heading for Liangju. Through the window curtain, I saw my parents pat my sister's hand, their faces seeming to relax with relief. My heart suddenly felt heavy and dull. Indeed, my parents had always favored my sister since we were young, giving her the best of everything first, and I could only pick up what was left. Once I accidentally broke something of my sister's, their first thought wasn't to understand the facts, but to blame and punish. They would say, "Look at you, as lifeless as stagnant water. Why can't you behave? Can't you learn from your sister and give your parents some peace of mind?" I wanted to say no, but seeing the disgusted looks on my parents' faces, I immediately fell silent. No matter how much is said, they will always only believe in sister. As for me, I am just a weed, unworthy of love, crossing mountains and fording rivers. I awoke from my drowsiness. I've waited for so long. Will Wei Qinyang come? He used to always get angry with me, whether I argued a few words with my sister, or glanced a few more times at another man. He would argue with me every time. Now, he watched helplessly as I married someone else. Would he be as angry as before? I waited for a long time, until the carriage reached Liangju, but I never saw his figure. Yes, he's not coming back. In his heart, I will never be as important as my sister. I lifted my gaze and saw a handsome man sitting on a blood-sweating horse. He was different from Wei Qinyang's handsomeness. He had a handsome yet rugged face, both masculine and imposing. They said that man was my husband. I had seen my fair share of scenes, but I was still intimidated by his presence. The next moment, in a dizzying whirl, he lifted me onto his warhorse. "Are you the wife His Majesty bestowed upon me?" I nodded. "Whoa." He spurred his horse toward the Minister of Personnel's residence. Unaccustomed to riding, I was chafed raw by the saddle, my legs aching. I couldn't help but say, Lord Liang, could we slow down a bit? It hurts. I didn't expect the man to be so easy to talk to. He slowed down considerably and even apologized to me. If it were Wei Qinyang, he would definitely have scolded me for being foolish before giving in. My uneasiness lessened a bit. Since you're so easy to talk to, I definitely won't be scolded even if I make some mistakes. I laughed and laughed, so pleased with myself that I forgot my composure and spread my arms wide. Unexpectedly, in the next second, I lost my balance completely. The man sighed and swiftly caught me before I fell. He said, "Do you know my full name?" "I know, but I dare not say it." How could a woman address her husband by his full name? But he said, "Liang Changeng." Me, what? He wrapped his arm around my waist, his features as exquisite as a painting. "But I prefer it when you call me husband." I arrived in Liangju. Only then did I understand why Wei Qinyang had said that I would be able to return to the capital after some time, because Liang Changeng holds military power, and the emperor is deeply suspicious. Any excuse could provoke the emperor's fury. But Liang Changeng is truly a good minister of works. I have never seen a place where everyone praises one person so highly, yet Liang Changeng managed to do it. If he were to die due to suspicion, it would be such a pity. At that moment, I even felt that he and I were kindred spirits, both unwelcome in this world. This was the conclusion I drew from what I heard the local people say while I was playing. On the day of the Mid-Autumn Festival, many people came to Sichu Manor. One of them, dressed in a blue robe, looked at Liang Changeng and laughed mockingly. "Liang Changeng, I never expected you to be so cowardly. You just accept whatever the emperor bestows upon you, even if it's as dull and stagnant as a pond with no life in it." I never expected that my reputation had actually reached Liangju, but it doesn't matter anyway. You, a single man, are also someone who can't recognize true value. A bachelor paired with stagnant water, a match made in heaven. His gaze fell upon me. "Don't you think so, Madam Sichu?" Liang Changeng's expression remained unchanged, only his grip on my hand tightened slightly. I look at the other person. My husband hasn't taken a wife or concubine for such a long time, truly a rarity in this world. Unlike this lord here with his multitude of wives and concubines, I wonder if his body can handle it all. The person holding my hand curls up the corner of their mouth. Meanwhile, the one who was just sneering and laughing a moment ago freezes, never expecting me to say such a thing, but I said it with utmost sincerity, without any hint of sarcasm. His face flushed with anger, and he seemed to grit his teeth so hard they might shatter. "Thank you for your concern, Madam Sichu. This humble official is doing just fine." Looking at his expression, I began to feel a bit remorseful, worried that my impulsive words might have caused trouble for Liang Changeng. Liang Changeng, however, smiled and said, "I swear." That remark was so sharp it made me bow in admiration. A slight smile tugged at the corner of my lips. He truly was a man of good temper. No matter how often I sneaked out to play, he never once got angry with me. It was the first time I had ever met someone like him who never lost his temper with me. Lately, for some reason, his body always felt warm whenever we shared a bed. I thought he had a fever, so I prepared some medicine for him, looking at him expectantly. Because I used to prepare medicine for Wei Qinyang, he always furrows his brow. "Mingxue, do you even know how to brew medicine? It's so bitter, how can anyone drink this? If you don't know how, then just don't bother." But Liang Changeng merely paused, smiled, took it, and drank it all in one go. "I swear. Do you have any candied fruit? This medicine is a bit bitter." I was taken aback for a moment, then quickly smiled and said, "Changeng, I'll go get it right away." In the past, whenever I called for Wei Qinyang, he was always impatient and condescending, but this time, his response was gentle. "I swear, be careful, don't run too fast, I'm in no hurry. Liangju is wonderful, and Liang Changeng is wonderful too, but the maid by my side is not. She was originally meant to serve my elder sister, yet she ended up following me here. Because of this, She despises me to the core, smiling in front of others, but scowling behind their backs. She glared at me with resentment and said disdainfully, "Even though you look exactly like the eldest young lady, you fall short of her in every way. If it weren't for the fact that you hold the position of the legitimate second young lady of the Marquis's household, you'd just be a worthless good-for-nothing. Otherwise, why would you have been married off to this desolate, bitter cold place?" I smiled and raised my hand, summoning a gust of wind. She yelled in shock, "How dare you hit me?" Liang Changgeng told me that if anyone tries to harm or bully me, I can fight back, and he will always have my back. I was just teaching a lesson to a lowly servant who doesn't know how to speak. My husband said I can do whatever I want. She trembled with fear and rage. "Second miss, do you think you're the eldest miss? Do you think men would dote on you, with your dull personality? Just wait and see how you'll end up dying. After all, no man in this world likes a woman who's forced upon him." I didn't believe a word she said. I only believe what I truly feel. But one day, she said, "See that vast, boundless grassland ahead? Liang Situ has gone missing." It said that at night, there are all kinds of venomous snakes and fierce beasts there, without Liang Situ's protection. How long do you think you can survive? I don't believe what she said, but everyone keeps telling me that he has indeed disappeared. The soldiers sent out have been searching for several days but still haven't found him. I know those who came to visit all had ill intentions. They all wished for Liang Changgeng to die. I stared at their hypocritical faces. Suddenly, I remembered the night I was forgotten in the desolate garden. Was it the same for Wei Qinyan's parents? But the desolate garden at night was truly terrifying to the heart. The snakes in the weeds really did bite people. The birds on the branches really did let out eerie calls, one after another. If no one went to find Liang Changgeng, how terrified he must have been. I spurred my horse like a madman, just as he had taught me, racing into the dark, endless grassland. "Liang Changgeng!" I shouted desperately into the north wind. I had never been so afraid, more afraid than when I faced the darkness alone. Tears unknowingly soaked my clothes. I was frantically trying to find him. This man, whom I have known for less than 3 months, yet listens to me earnestly and treats me with gentleness. I once thought that my feelings for Wei Qinyang were what love was, but Liang Changgeng made me so anxious and fearful. It wasn't until this moment that I realized how deeply I like him. Liang Changgeng. In a dizzying whirl, I was lifted onto the horse and pulled into a warm embrace. A familiar voice grunted, carrying deep amusement and helplessness. "Akshu, are you trying to murder your husband?" He gently wiped away my tears with his hand and asked, "Why are you here?" He thought I would stay indifferently at Situ Manor, but just looking at him made tears stream down my face, and I could only hold him tightly, choking back sobs. I said, "Changgeng, I'm afraid that you don't want me anymore." Yes, I had already unknowingly fallen for him. The person holding me stiffened for a moment, then lowered his gaze to look at me carefully. A smile he couldn't hide tugged at his lips. "Aishwar, what did you just say? Say it again." I looked up and kissed his lips. I said, "I like Liang Changgeng." He held me tightly with restrained force. Finally, he gently placed a kiss on the top of my head, as if I would vanish in an instant. Liang Changgeng had returned. They annihilated 30,000 enemies and were commended by His Majesty. Those who had wished for his death were extremely displeased. The one in the blue robe earlier, with a livid face, offered congratulations, and the banquet came to an end. The maid who despised me knelt in the snow. She kept kowtowing and begging for mercy. She insisted that she had never intended to harm the second young lady. Liang Changgeng's face was cold and stern, as if he had returned to the way he was when I first met him. He covered my ears. His voice, as cold as ice, uttered a few words. The maid's face instantly turned paler than snow. He thought I couldn't hear, but I heard it. What he said was, "Take her to prison, better to die than live." After this incident, he dispatched more hidden guards to protect me. I remained as carefree as before, but I rarely got to see him, only late at night. I finally sensed a familiar presence. He held me tightly in his arms, resting his chin on the top of my head, in my dazed state. I imitated what he had done countless times before and gently patted his back. There was a hidden guard who was very afraid that I might misunderstand him. At the risk of being punished by him, he gave me some information. This time, the enemy nation has returned with an unusually fierce force. Sichu has been going without sleep for several days now. My heart suddenly tightened. Chang Gang. Later, the battle began. The Shadow Guard, following his orders, took me to a safe place. The Shadow Guard said that Sichu would return soon, but I didn't have time to wait for him. I was taken away by the people Wei Qinyang brought. I originally wanted to commit suicide, but on the way, I discovered I was pregnant. I touched my own stomach, feeling as if I had found a reason to live again. So, I stopped resisting and desperately ate the food. And so, we arrived in the capital city. I was taken to a private residence that Wei Qinyang had purchased. But they were still discovered by Wei's parents. They were so angry that they made Wei Qinyang kneel in the ancestral hall. That wretched child actually dared to deceive us and pull off such a sneaky trick behind our backs. I swear, I'm sorry, when I found out about this, I almost broke his leg. Let him remember every moment, every minute, that as soon as there's a chance, he must bring you back to the capital. Otherwise, how could we face your parents? Their words were a mix of truth and falsehood. If they truly cared, why would they have brought me back when Chang Gang was facing the enemy? Wei Qinyang was so angry he laughed. Am I even your biological son anymore? Surprisingly, he didn't refute it, nor did he get angry. You have to understand. What he hated most before was when his parents in the Wei family scolded him because of me. In his eyes, if it weren't for me being such a nuisance, he would have long been married to my sister. But no matter how hard he tried, he just couldn't get rid of me. Never mind, at least you've returned to the capital. I swear, when it comes down to it, it's our Wei family who has wronged you. Now that Minister Liang's fate is unknown, you have no one to rely on. Why not let Qinyang take you as his concubine? With your dull personality and being a second marriage, I'm afraid it won't be easy to find a suitable match. Mother Wei took my hand and said. I subtly withdrew my hand. I glanced at Wei Qinyang. He actually, quite uncharacteristically, did not get angry, but instead smiled and said, "You should be secretly delighted." He looked down at me from his high position, as if waiting for me to be overjoyed. Even the others widened their eyes in surprise. But no one expected that I would be the first to speak. Clutching my stomach, I don't want to marry him. And I absolutely refuse to be a concubine. Wei Qinyang's slightly raised eyebrows froze. His face visibly showed disbelief. After a long while, he finally laughed mockingly and said, "Given your current situation, I'm already reluctantly agreeing to marry you. What more are you being so fussy about?" Halfway through his words, his gaze fell on my slightly swollen belly, and his eyes suddenly turned bleak. His eyes reddened as he demanded, "Did that bastard touch you?" After he finished speaking, everyone stared at my belly. I was startled by his stare and instinctively tightened my arms around my belly. A mocking expression crossed my face. "What do you mean by that? Minister Wei, Chang Gang is my husband, why shouldn't he touch me? Moreover, Minister Wei, Madam Wei, my husband is still waiting for me." I lifted my leg and rushed outside, but Wei Qinyang ran very fast, and in no time he had firmly grabbed my hand. His eyes were both furious and red, filled with a fierce and menacing aura as he questioned me again. "Did he really touch you? Wei Qinyang is so annoying. I already told him, yet he still insists on asking. Even I know that when you can't win someone's affection, the best thing is not to cling." I stared at him coldly, enunciating each word clearly. "Chang Gang is my husband, the one I love. I am happy when he touches me, rather than being or not being. This phrase of liking and joy directly made Wei Qinyang loosen his grip. Staggering, he tumbled to the ground. Wei's parents exclaimed in shock, "Qinyang, how could this be?" He pushed past the others and staggered over to me. "How could it be like this? You're so—" He dug his nails into his palm, his words trailing off. "Yet I spoke it for him. I'm so dull and wooden. No man would ever touch me. Without exception, they all prefer gentle, understanding flowers. Marrying a piece of deadwood like me, and being forced into it at that. It should have been the shame of his life. He ought to loathe me to the core and torment me relentlessly. After all, if I didn't look so much like my elder sister, it would have been her he married, bright and lively. In comparison, I am but a weed. How dare I compete with the sun and the moon? Everyone would think so, even Wei Qinyang. But he is inherently hypocritical. How could he ever admit it?" Hearing my words that could be considered a direct quote, a flicker of panic flashed in his eyes. "I swear." "Let me explain. I'm not." I had no patience to listen to his rambling. "Wei Qinyang, that's exactly what you meant, so why pretend otherwise? You all say I'm not as good as my sister, and I know it's true, but Chang'eng told me that a shui can also be the sun and moon, shining brightly." Saying this, I felt as if I had returned to the time when I always loved sharing everything with Wei Qinyang. If a bird sang in the tree, I had to tell him. If the crabapple blossoms bloomed at the door, I had to tell him too, but every time I shared with him, he would complain that I was too noisy. What's so worth mentioning about those trivial things? But there was no other way. Aishue's life back then was entirely bleak. Having encountered a glimmer of light, she couldn't help but want to grasp it with all her might. This time, I smiled brightly. "Wei Qinyang, I love him, and he loves me too. We shall live together, and in death share the same bed." His entire shoulders trembled as he roared hoarsely, "Mingxue, stop talking. I told you to stop talking." His icy voice startled everyone. Seeing their son in this deranged state, Mother and Father Wei understood everything at once. They immediately pulled him up. Wei Qinyang struggled frantically. "What are you pulling me for? She clearly likes me. She clearly said she only wants to grow old with me." He pulled me hard. "Mingxue, how could you not like me anymore? Why don't you like me anymore? I even let you return to the capital." I looked at him coldly. The Wei family parents quickly called the servants to pull him away. Madame Wei raised her hand and slapped him. "What are you doing now? Back then, we wanted you to marry Aishwe, but you refused to agree. And now you're blaming her for not remaining chaste for you, for getting pregnant with someone else's child. But wasn't it you who secretly switched things around, leading to this situation?" Her eyes brimmed with disappointment. "The child I raised with such care has turned out like this." Wei Qinyang was filled with regret, muttering to himself, "If I had known he would lay a hand on her, I would never have. You unfilial son, how dare you speak such nonsense? Someone, take him away and give him 20 lashes." Minister Wei looked at me apologetically and said, "Ashwe, please pretend you heard nothing today. I will have someone escort you back." But in the end, I still couldn't leave. Because Wei Qinyang threatened to take his own life, he still locked me in the side courtyard. No matter how I tried to imitate my sister's temper tantrums, he neither dodged nor flinched. "Akshu, are you feeling better now? If not, you can smash a few more things." I laughed bitterly in my fury. "Wei Qinyang, I won't bother you anymore. You should be happy about that. Besides, didn't you willingly give your all for sister, now that you've finally gotten what you wanted? Why are you coming close to me again? You really are shameless." Yes, he and sister are truly a match made in heaven. Without me, Minister Wei and Lady Wei would surely agree. But Wei Qinyang didn't say anything in rebuttal, just looked at me with sorrow. These days, he had grown.
"This was specially made for me by Chang'eng. Once opened, there would be lethal poison powder inside. He told me, 'Akshu, if anyone ever tries to harm you, open this. No matter what, I will always have your back.' Logically speaking, This pouch should have been used on the day Wei Qinyang abducted me, but he simply had too many men. The poison powder is simply not enough. I hesitated a bit, not because I didn't want to harm her, but if I were to throw it out and kill the Marquis's daughter, who might even be the future daughter-in-law of Minister Wei, this mess would be a bit too big to handle. He might not be able to handle the consequences. I hoped my elder sister would calm down at this moment, but she seemed to have gone completely mad. Mingxue, if it weren't for you, how could I have lost Wei Qinyang? I want you dead. Just as her hands were about to grab my neck, and I was preparing to strike back, she was kicked hard to the ground. Mingyu, what are you doing? Mingyu was incredulous, heartbroken, and furious. Wei Qinyang, how could you treat me like this? You clearly said you would be good to me for a lifetime. Have you forgotten all of it? Once, Mingyu was also weeping like a pear blossom bathed in rain, and Wei Qinyang was utterly flustered. He would always coax her with gentle and tender words, because she had a proud and aloof nature. It was rare for her to show vulnerability. Wei Qinyang would then feel an overwhelming ache in his heart. But now, Wei Qinyang was giving her the cold shoulder. Miss Ming, if you have any grievances, direct them at me. Don't harm a Shui. Ha ha ha. Mingyu laughed, her laughter filled with resentment. You would actually abandon me for a block of wood. Have you forgotten? You said I was a gentle, understanding flower. You said I was bright and lively, and that you would marry me someday. Wei Qinyang didn't look at her, merely reaching to hold my hand. He said coldly, those were just childish words from our youth, not to be taken seriously. Besides, I already spared you from suffering in Liangju back then. That was the utmost kindness I could offer. From now on, we owe each other nothing. Mingyu's gaze upon him was filled with utmost resentment. She's just a block of wood, unloved by her parents, and a burden to you. What is there to like about her? Wei Qinyang ignored her, grabbed me, and led me out through an underground secret passage. He brought me back to his villa again. I spoke indifferently. Wei Qinyang, you've seen it yourself. If you continue to keep me imprisoned, I will face more and more dangers. Can you let me go? He looked at me, smiling bitterly. Akshu, I thought after I said those words, you would understand my feelings. I sneered coldly. What do your feelings have to do with me? He was like a stray dog, having lost all his strength. I know that no matter what I say now, you won't believe me, but I never expected the Ming family to find out and imprison you. But can you give me a chance to atone for my mistakes? I truly love you. In the past, I was too proud to admit it. His words made me sick to my stomach. You say you like me, yet you hurt me over and over again. Your so-called affection is truly disgusting. Wei Qinyang's voice was broken. A Shui. Please don't say that. I didn't know what came over me back then. I turned my head away, unwilling to look at him any longer, but his eyes flashed with a strange excitement. Is it true that if the child is gone, you can be with me? My heart skipped a beat, and alarm bells went off in my mind. His palm, at some point, now held a pill as he walked toward me. Aishwe, don't be afraid. Once the child is gone, we can be together. I clutched the bag tightly. Just as I couldn't hold back any longer, bang, a long sword severed Wei Qinyang's arm. The door was wide open, and I opened my eyes to look. That tall figure, exuding an air of solemnity, had dark, smiling eyes, while behind him, the flustered Wei family servants hurriedly spoke up. Young master, we truly couldn't stop him. Wei Qinyang looked over in astonishment. According to the third prince's plan, Chang'an was supposed to have died beyond the Great Wall. Chang'an walked step by step through the blood, his faint smile sending chills down one's spine. Excuse me, I, Ben Situ, have come to pick up my wife. The moment his gaze fell upon me, the ice in his eyes melted away. Let's go home. I joyfully threw myself into his embrace. Chang'an, I really missed him after not seeing him for half a month, but I never expected him to be so true to his word. He promised to show me all of the northern frontier, and no matter where I was, he would always bring me home, held in my arms. Chang'an's voice was so gentle, as if afraid of startling a child. Everything's fine. Upon hearing the news, Minister Wei and his wife arrived, their faces filled with disbelief. How could you possibly still be alive? Minister Wei was speechless. It must be known that the third prince had laid many ambushes to kill him, so in their eyes, Chang'e was already a dead man. Unlike me, I never worry, because he promised me he would return safely. I believe in him, he kept his word. Lord Liang, what is this? Minister Wei looked at his son's severed arm with lingering fear. If Chang'e had died in battle, no one would have cared about what happened to me, but just when Chang'e was still defending against foreign enemies, Wei Qinyang had already abducted me, and just when people found us, they witnessed him trying to force me to drink an abortion potion. Minister Wei and Madam Wei's faces grew paler and paler as they thought about it. Yet Chang'e looked at them and said, I suppose Lord Wei should address me as the Marquis of Changping. Minister Wei collapsed to the ground in an instant. Not only did he fail to kill the person, but he even ended up being granted a noble title, without saying another word. Chang'e carefully shielded me as we made our way out. Wei Qinyang, with his severed arm, frantically tried to charge forward, but Minister Wei and his wife held him back firmly. He stumbled and stammered hoarsely, swear. I swear. My footsteps faltered, under Chang'e's unreadable gaze. I guiltily shrunk my neck, the pouch at his waist was open, the poisonous powder was scattered out, it all landed on Wei Qinyang. This is not my fault. Who told Wei Qinyang to dare harm my child? I swear, this was never your fault. Chang'e patted my head and said to me, in truth, he had secret guards stationed around me. It was the people sent by Wei Qinyang who killed the person, so they could take me away. If His Majesty truly investigates this matter, the Wei family will surely face the death penalty. After all, Chang'e had just won a battle, and then came the news of the Wei family abducting a minister's wife. If this matter was not handled justly, wouldn't it chill the hearts of countless soldiers? The emperor was not entirely foolish. Even though Wei Qinyang died, no charges were brought against Chang'e. Instead, Chang'e presented evidence of the Wei and Ming families, as well as the third prince, colluding with the enemy, and had them convicted, and he also submitted his resignation to His Majesty. I asked him, Chang'e, do you regret it? He said, now the world is at peace, and my greatest wish is to stay by your side and our child's. I took his hand and walked step by step toward the happiness that belongs to us. By the time we reached Liangju again, the trees we had planted had already bloomed, petals fell upon us one by one, holding your hand. Growing old together.